has failed to answer that question very well.
Are you trying to say that the FDC is due for capture equally?
So I'm coming, but I want you to understand the problem. That FDC set out, it's the cause of FDC, the task we gave ourselves was to liberate power from Mr. Museveni's hands, or the hands of his family, because it's family rule.
Yeah.
We want to liberate power from his family. But his family controls all wealth, controls all forces, controls all institutions. If we have to get power from their hands, then we must develop a strategy that is capable of achieving that. And that is where the problems we have within FDC have been arising, the strategy of how to achieve our goal. For me, from 2011, I have been having a significant difference from many of our leaders on how we achieve that. How do we achieve this? Can we achieve it only by preparing ourselves to win an election that Mr. Museveni organizes, which requires that money, which requires the military, which requires, is that how we shall liberate the power that we want to liberate? That is something we must discuss very candidly. And we have been discussing it within FDC. In fact, those of you who were following the contradictions between what I am saying and what General Muntu was saying, that was the contradiction. How do we free our country?
Contradiction over strategy.
Over strategy. How do we free our country from this person who controls wealth, who controls forces, who controls institutions?
Why has the FDC failed to answer this question?
So that is the question. Why have we failed? And I think part of the reason we have failed is because the leaders who should be answering that question develop interests that don't allow them to answer that question effectively for the main party members. In other words, there is a misrepresentation, I think, at the leadership. Because, you see, if somebody has already gone, for example, to parliament and has access to more resources, and possibly has access to also connections with those who have forces, who have controls.
Yes.
That person will see it possible to maintain his or her position, regardless of whether our cause of liberating the power controlled by the one person at the top succeeds or doesn't. So, to make it easy to understand, people who are FDC leaders but serve within government positions quite often become comfortable there.
Wow.
Because they are having the kind of things you said they have fallen into things.
They are in things, tomorrow.
Once they have fallen into things, it becomes unattractive to fall out of things and fold your shirt to fight the tough fight that we need to fight to liberate ourselves from that control. And I think that's where, frankly, as somebody who has been, engaging with our leaders, I think that's where the challenge falls. It is an elite failure, the failure of us. I also am part of that failure, I must say. It's a failure of us, the elites, remaining focused on the interest of the person at the bottom, to free what we set out to free to get to them. In other words, the person at the top who controls all these things gains influence in those who are supposed to remove them. And that's why we have this contradiction now in FDC. That's precisely why we have the contradiction now.
Thank you very much.
And maybe I can now turn to how the current contradiction itself.
Before you get there, we'll get an interpretation from Honorable Umo, and also that I now understand what you said.